Good evening. I am Kavya here, and I am going to take a small topic based on the Marxian theory of distribution. One of the features of the classical model is the conception of normal conditions that are assumed to govern systems characterized by free competition. And also there are two illustrative approaches along these lines are the surplus approach to value and distribution of the so-called Scraffian school, for example, Garganani in 1984-1987, and given analytical treatment in Coase and Salvatori. Theory of regulating capital in Ansa Scheich in 2016 for the development of the Marxian framework is the second one. In both approaches, classical causality is maintained and the closure of the system via the wage realization runs from the profit rate to the rate of accumulation of capital and the investment of profit, with the nexus linking the two being the prosperity to save and accumulate profit. The hallmark of the Scraffian approach is a long period position, where wages are determined to some normal level, which in turn gives rise to normal profit, the normal price of production, and the normal utilization of capacity. This is termed as a fully adjusted situation where the above normal categories are adjusted to effective demand. It is important to emphasize that normality does not necessitate full employment. The conditions that determine the normality tend to ascribe uniformity in the rate of wages and profit under condition of free competition. The Scheich's approach to condition of normality convenes of the notion of regulating condition and thereby theory of real competition. The latter conceived not as a game, as a neoclassical perfect and imperfect competition, but rather warfare as a profit-seeking capitalist adjusted to the highest sustainable rate of return. And it is termed as a regulating condition. The determination of the regulation condition occurs from a complex mosaic of competitive process of both the intra and inter-industrial level. The basic mechanism is that within the industries, best practice technique, there are generally socially reproducible determine the regulating capital of that industry, and these regulating conditions once identified become subject to competition across industries. Classical closure of the distribution parameter from the wage side means the wages are given and profit are residual. The notion of a given wage rate has a long history in political economy, going for a back at least for a Kuznetsov and the Fifth school. The argument is basically that certain psychological, social, historical, and or demographic conditions exist such that systematic social reproduction induces and ensures an efficient laboring class. The definition of what constitutes an efficient laboring class is often a matter of interpretation, as it is a necessary bundle of a wage group that brings this about. As one end of the theoretical spectrum is the iron law of wages, where the wage bundle is limited in the bare psychological existence of the workers, which is enforced by the means of Malthusian Ricardian demographic equilibrium of death and birth rate of notion that Marx himself firmly rejected. At the other end of the spectrum, there are sociological and historical theories that posit a relatively given wage bundle that is above bare income, and also the mechanical that is common to both the idea and the subsistence wages determined by the price of the given that is non-market determined bundle of wage goods. Whether the subsistence wage is generally acknowledged to not refer to a biological minimum means that subsistence is defined broadly to include the social historical condition in the reproduction of the working class, and even though class struggle can play a role in the influencing those wages, he developed that the minimum wage is a function of the wage inherited from the past and habituated workers' bargaining power determine whether the actual wage will be greater than the minimum wage. Workers' bargaining power is displayed as a function of the condition in the labour market, and the level of worker organization and the general social and political climate there all have some degree of autonomy in determining the strength of the workers in the wage bargaining, and thus in determining if the wage rate will be higher or equal to the subsequent rate, the wage inherited from the past, and which forms a minimum floor in the wage bargaining. The disciplining effect of the unemployment rate of Marx reserve army of labor is generally a feature of Marxian inspired model beginning with the Goodwin's famous articles and the levy in 1988, Baduri and Marshall. The specification regarding the unemployment rate is the basis of the classical wage curve. This determination of income distribution for classical closure of the wage side relates to the Marxian reserve army of labor story in two-stage process. In the first instance, social conditions, norms and class struggle help to shape the particular value of class struggle parameter, which establish the share of wages in productivity. This establishes the overall regime of distribution, which is regime of distribution for short-run changes in the wage share and cyclically associated with changes in the unemployment rate. When the labour market is tight, the actual rate of unemployment is less than the critical rate and the wage share rises. And when the labour market is low, the actual rate of unemployment is greater than the critical rate and the wage share falls. Leftward or backward shift in the classical wage curve and the counterclockwise rotating shifting indicate increased worker strength. In this case, a new regime and the new wage curve has occurred. This has a growing intensity in this type model, and the implications of the model to consider investment in the credit demand. That's all. Thank you.